Hello and welcome to the Premier Football Podcast. As always, I'm Rafe Garland. I'm joined here by two debutants on the pod. Ethan Costello, thanks for coming by.
Cheers, Rafe. Thanks very much for having me.
The stand-in gunner for this evening, obviously, Joe is away off gallivanting in Poland. He'll be back next week, though. Ozzie, thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me, Rafe.
Well rested, are you?
Well rested, ready to go.
Got a bit of kip in yesterday?
Yeah, ready to go.
Brilliant, super, fantastic. Right, lads, we're going to start at the top of the table. Liverpool took on Watford in a game that they won 2-0. Ozzie, why don't you tell us a little bit about that? 10 points clear at the top of the table. Is it Liverpool's to lose?
Definitely. I mean, there's no question. I think, Leicester 10 points behind, City 14. It'd be a miracle for anyone to turn this around. They've just been so clinical this year. The front three have been firing as always. They're a great link up with Firmino as the catalyst and Mane and Salah either side, and then of course they've got Van Dijk at the back. So it's looking good.
Yeah, definitely. 2 games in 2 days, Ethan. Played the League Cup quarter-final against Aston Villa on Tuesday evening and the World Club Cup semi-final this evening, obviously losing 5-0 to Villa. The youngsters got on okay, but obviously were beaten by the better team on the day.
So look, at the end of the day, I suppose you weren't expected to win. It's a quarter-final of a cup competition. There was a choice to be made. Klopp made his choice. If people disagree with him, then fair enough. I suppose this Club World Cup, it's not the most prestigious tournament in the world, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, it doesn't come out every season.
It's not the most prestigious in Europe.
Yeah, I suppose. It's their World Cup
in South America.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I think the Flamengo fans have gone over. They've travelled in like tens of thousands to go over and see it, whereas Liverpool have taken like 4,000 supporters or something like that. So should they draw Flamengo in the final? I think
they have.
Flamengo have, yeah. So, they'll be massively outnumbered in terms of support of that game.
So look, at the end of the day, it's a cup competition to secure a trophy before January transfer window. All it's going to do is the confidence well. The only thing that I'd be a bit worried about if I was a Liverpool fan is the whole fatigue factor coming into the Christmas run of games, the festive period. We know it comes thick and fast every couple of days as a match.
Yeah.
Klopp did make his choice, and I think he was very right going with the full squad to Qatar.
Yeah.
And leaving the full under 21s team.
Yeah.
In England, let's say.
Yeah.
If he mixed and matched, I wouldn't agree with it personally. Obviously, he knows better than myself now, but I think he was right. Definitely, you've seen today, like they won 2-1. Not a great performance, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, they'll take any sort of result, especially get that done with, hopefully win it, and bring them all back to full fit.
Now, Liverpool are on course. You mentioned the fatigue factor to play 67 games this year. That's an average of a game every 4.5 games. A game every 4.5 days.
Yeah.
Have you been impressed by how Jurgen Klopp has rotated the squad in recent weeks?
Definitely. I think he's one of the best managers for it. I feel as though when he does rotate the squad, he does it correctly. It's not one of these things that he pulls out Mane and puts in Shaqiri for a huge game. I think he knows 3 weeks in advance what his team's going to be for his games. Give and take no injuries, of course, or loss of form or this, that, and the other. But I feel like himself and obviously his backroom team obviously have a say in it as well. But I feel like he knows the exact games that he can rest players for. And even when they don't play well, such as the Everton game, still win. 3 points against one of the biggest rivals that they have. Like how can you go wrong with it?
Yeah, definitely. Watford really could have done with some points this week, and they played quite well. I think they were quite unlucky to lose, and it leaves them now 6 points adrift coming into the Christmas break. Do you see any hope for them?
I mean, they haven't left themselves in a great position, but it's a weird one with Watford because you look at the squad at the start of the season and they've got a strong team. You'd imagine them kind of the mid-table area range, but it just hasn't worked out for them so far this season. I think their biggest problem is the changing of managers too quick. They're not giving one manager a chance to, time or even a January transfer window to kind of bring someone else in or try different things. I think it's just going to catch up with them, and to be honest with you, I can't see a way back from them.
This manager merry-go-round that you mentioned there has kind of been a big factor in the way the Italians have run Watford since they took over. They seem to rapidly go to manager, and it doesn't seem to matter with their style. But I think the biggest issue that they've had is probably not investing in the squad properly. You look at the money that's been spent on players coming in. And I think the record signing Sarr came in over the summer for 20-something million. I mean, the investment in the players just hasn't been there. And I think we've seen at other clubs like Newcastle in recent memory that if you don't put the money in, you find yourself in real trouble pretty
key
quickly.
areas, like key areas. Obviously, goal scorers keep you up, but it needs the right type of goal.
How much have they missed Troy Deeney this season?
Oh, huge. As much as he's not viewed as this technically gifted footballer, he's the club captain. He always gives them a lift. He always gives 110%.
He scores goals as well.
And he puts himself about like he's their target man. People get like runners come off him. Jared Deulofeu is much better when he plays. It's just he's one of them link up people that if you feed him the ball, he will hold it up and runners can get around him then. And that's what Watford need, because as much as you can be good defensively, last year they weren't bad getting to the FA Cup final, let's say. This year they've just been leaking goals. Like Ben Foster's a great goalkeeper in my opinion, but you're only as good as your defence in front of you. When you face the amount of shots he faces, at the end of the day, goals are going to go in.
We'll come to shots faced in a few minutes.
No, I'm sure we'll
Burnley hosted Newcastle and managed to get 3 points. I think that was their first win in 4 or 5. They'd actually been through a real sticky patch. It's a massive result for them and for Sean Dyche. Oz, how brilliant of a job, how well of a job has he done at Burnley over the last few years?
Yeah, fantastic. And they're one of those teams that even if they're around the bottom, you can always see them staying up. He's got great belief in his players, and no one fancies a game at Turf Moor. No. If you're a top player, a flashy Aubameyang type player, you're not going to want to go and play at Turf Moor because exactly what you're going to get against.
They're the new Stoke almost, aren't they? Could Messi go to the Britannia on Wednesday night? Like, would he fancy Sean Dyche on the way with it? No,
that's Turf Moor nowadays.
Definitely.
4-4-2.
In the opposite dugout, obviously Steve Bruce at Newcastle, Ito, has come in this season. He wasn't the most popular appointment at the start of the year. Has he won the fans over, do you think?
Yeah and no. I feel like the position that they're in at the moment,
which to clarify is 11th on 22 points,
which just shows how tight the league is. Like, let's be honest, like there's a gap of 3 points to 11th to 5th.
But there's 7 points above the drop zone.
I think any Newcastle fan after sacking Rafa Benitez would have taken 17th place in the league. 100%.
I think so, yeah.
Like, Rafa was viewed as a god there.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
Just because of who he is as a manager, the high-profile appointment. Steve Bruce was never, ever going to be popular. He's got a couple of nice wins now over the likes of Spurs. The tough teams that they're playing, they seem to get more up for. They seem to be playing better and not trying harder, don't get me wrong, but grinding out these results. But then they get the occasional team like the Burnleys.
I don't think anyone expects them to go to Burnley and win, because Burnley do what Newcastle do, but better.
They do. They pick their games. They know what games that they can definitely win, and they do go out and
it's the home games really that isn't it?
Definitely.
And they're the games that keep you up. Your home fans getting behind you.
Definitely.
And playing for them.
Definitely. I think that's something that we saw at Stamford Bridge last week. The home fans really getting behind the team. Trying to keep them up. No wins in 5 for Chelsea.
Yeah, it's a downward slope, and it could become a bit of a concern. We've had a good season so far. We've overachieved, I think. But regardless of where we finish, realistically, considering how well the season's gone so far, I think, at least anyway, so far, Frank Lampard hasn't done that bad of a job.
Fair enough. That is pretty fair. With the transfer ban being lifted in January, where would you like to see him go and strengthen?
Immediately and realistically, I'd like Nathan Ake back at the club. We've got a 400 million buyout clause on him, whereas City are looking to buy him for 75 million. So it's kind
of a couple of people in and around here.
Yeah, like it's two birds with the one stone. It's City not getting him, and it's a cheaper option.
But surely having been at Chelsea, he'd know that should he go back, there's always the possibility that his chances are going to be limited there.
But these are the things that they would discuss, with the contract. How much games am I going to be getting?
With you as a Chelsea fan, you would like to see him come straight into the starting lineup, would you?
I think he's a good short-term option.
But is that, if you were Frank Lampard and you're trying to convince him to come and play for Chelsea, what would you tell him? Would you tell him that he's going to play week in, week out for Chelsea?
I would tell him, listen, we've got no guaranteed starting centre back positions.
But you talk about Manchester City, and I think any good centre half being signed for that amount of money knows that they're going to walk in and demand a starting place.
But do you think
that's the easiest position to get?
If you come in on a $4 million buyout clause, $4 million,
40.
Oh, 40.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I suppose. But I mean, you've Zuma and Tomori individually have both looked very good this season, and I mean, one of them
at times now.
Yeah, but you're going to have to sell one of them.
But if you're Nathan Ake, do you think you've got a better chance of starting for Chelsea or Man City?
Manchester City.
You think so?
Well, I think that the fact that Fernandinho has played centre half all season for City,
we're still waiting on the Porte to come back in.
With City as well, it's not always as how good you are defensively. It's can you play out from the back? No, I don't think.
But do you not think that the same demands are going to be put on him at Chelsea?
Not as much. Because
do you not think that that's the kind of system that Frank's going to want to go for?
Not as much, I'd say, but I'd agree with both of you in a way. I think it's very 50-50. The one position that you get in, hands down, City's lineup, if you're a player, is centre half.
But I mean,
spots open.
So let's say Laporte is first choice. Is John Stone second choice?
Guardiola likes him.
Does he really though?
Yeah, it's not because of his defensive abilities. Because I don't think John Stones is much of a defender, but he's more ball playing centre half, and that's what Pep Guardiola likes. And that's why I think it's worked well so far for Fernandinho. Yeah, you know, you've seen him even bench Otamendi and start Fernandinho purely because he's a better ball player. But then again, slightly he could be a better defender than Otamendi.
A great win for Eddie Howe. I think Bournemouth had been through a real tough patch coming into that game, and they'd obviously had so many injuries. I think they're missing 8 first-team players or something like that.
Yeah.
Does what he does get spoken about enough? Working in Bournemouth with that small budget, even you look at the teams that came up last year. Bournemouth are still hands down the smallest club in the Premier League.
Oh yeah, definitely. Revenue-wise,
and they've been here for what, 5 or 6 years now.
Yeah, and they're a Premier League staple club. Like
you can't see them going anywhere.
No, and I hope not either.
But you say that, but last week they were 2 points from safety.
Yeah, that's just, again, it just.
I know it's early on in the league, and I know it's tight, but I mean they're not safe, and it's not that you can't see them. Like I mean they've.
It could happen. It could happen.
But you're looking from anyone from kind of 11th Newcastle downwards. But I mean, they're all within the chance of getting ready.
You still have
but you talk about what Newcastle and Burnley are 11th and 12th, and they're on 22 and 21 points respectively. Now they say it takes about 38 points to stay in the league. So Burnley need to take another 17 points from.
How many games are we?
17 games? Is it 16 games?
We're around that mark. I think
16, 17.
Maybe 1 or 2 more.
So I mean, there's the best part of quick maths is 50 something points to play for, 50 odd points to play for left in the league, and Burnley needs to take 17 out. Burnley are going to take 17 points from 50 games.
You'd imagine so.
Yeah.
Newcastle, do you know what I mean? It's what, 6 wins over the rest of the season?
Yeah, it's one of them things. I feel like all of the kind of.
So, but let's keep going though. Yeah. So Newcastle and Burnley, I think Newcastle are going to be all right, and Burnley are going to be all right. Brighton then 20 points. Bournemouth 19, West Ham 19. West Ham aren't going to go down, are they? In reality,
you wouldn't know.
It depends.
Well, surely they can.
They can't, but they've done it. It's happened before to them.
Everton aren't going down.
No, I can't. No, I can't.
So I mean that means
Ancelotti coming in.
That there are 3 teams to go down, and realistically, we're talking about Brighton, Bournemouth, Villa, possibly West Ham. I don't see West Ham going down.
They won't be much further up though. I'd say
Southampton, Norwich, and Watford. So
I think January transfer window was huge for all of those teams.
Who's going to buy? Who are they going to buy?
I mean, Everton have got money there. West Ham.
Everton will be fine. West Ham will be fine. But I mean, the teams that could actually go down.
But put it this way:
Brighton have been doing okay. I don't see Brighton as relegation contenders with the way they've been playing this year.
When your club has got a chance of going down, owners take out the wallet.
Yeah, it's a panic.
They see the bigger picture. Are we going to try and stay a Premier League club, or are we going down?
Well, I think Everton under Ancelotti, as it seems like it's going to be, we'll talk about that in a minute, will spend money.
Yeah.
Like everyone I think would be astonished. I think he's actually holding off on signing a contract until he's assured about funds and transfer policies and things like this.
I think as much as he is a good manager, it's a good appointment in that aspect.
All right, well, look, we'll skip ahead and we'll talk about Everton for a minute.
But I feel he's also probably being brought in for the record sign of Moise Kean with the Italian link. You know, he speaks Italian. Could he get the best out of Moise Kean?
Interesting that that's the first thing you've brought up when we start talking about Everton. Duncan Ferguson obviously has done a brilliant job in the first 2 games. They're obviously in League Cup action midweek, but a win.
Tonight, actually, isn't it?
Maybe we could.
2-1 down at the moment.
They're losing 2-1 to Leicester. And that is still Ferguson in charge.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you look at the games that he had coming into it, Manchester United,
Chelsea,
Chelsea, and Leicester,
Arsenal this weekend.
The first 3 games, no one would have expected him to get anything from.
Yeah. I'm sure they get a nice 3 on the weekend. Anyway.
But I mean, 4 points in the first 2 games wasn't expected.
No, definitely not.
And I don't think anyone had a negative word to say about him up until possibly the last minute of the United game, where he subbed off Moise Kean, who had been on the pitch for 19 minutes.
I don't think any Everton fan cares. To be honest with you. A 1-1 at Old Trafford, regardless of what Old Trafford is now, compared to a couple of years ago with different Ferguson, let's say. But do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, like 4 points from, I'd say 0. Give me 2 weeks ago, I'd say hands down 0 -6 goal difference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But I mean, theoretically, 1 win could parachute him as high as 12th now.
Oh yeah, well, again, this is just how tight the league is. And you're talking like, you look at them playing against the likes of United. Like 1 point against them counts honestly for 3 compared to the likes of, let's say, Newcastle losing to Burnley. Do you know what I mean? Like the point gained on that compared to Newcastle losing
what you expected
3.
to get from it.
That's what I mean.
You don't normally highlight Old Trafford as somewhere you're going to go and get 3 points.
Yeah.
Do
you think from...
Well, let's talk about United, actually, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
For a minute. We say that a point there isn't normally something that you'd... Or 3 points isn't normally something you'd go and target. They seem to do well against teams in the top half of the table, and they seem to drop a massive number of points. They've actually taken more points off teams in the top half of the season this year than they have against teams in the bottom half of the season, and they've played more in the bottom half.
Yeah.
Is it a case that they just aren't creative in possession of the football? They can counter-attack really well, and they're not creative, or is there something bigger going on at the club?
I think United struggle immensely with trying to break teams that sit. If teams park 10 players behind the ball and leave 1 up top, they do struggle. The likes of playing against Chelsea at the start of the season, Chelsea pushed everyone up bar the 2 centre-halves, and you've seen how good they were in the counter-attack.
Yeah.
Now, start of the season, this Saturday, new Frank Lampard Chelsea, but you've seen against the top teams, they've done it as well. Like the likes against Spurs, they were all over them. The Arsenal game, I know, was at Old Trafford, but Arsenal played into their hands. I don't know how they didn't win that game.
But that's it, though. Is it the fact that the top teams have more of the ball?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The minute teams start sitting against United, I feel like they lack that creative player that Juan Mata used to be.
Is that where they've missed Paul Pogba this year?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot said about Paul Pogba, but in his figures, I know he scores a lot of penalties, but when you even look at the number of assists that he gets, he does put out regular numbers.
Yeah.
He does score regular goals. He does regularly set up goals.
I think for the money they can get from and the trouble, he causes, they could do
people,
much better.
People talk so much about money in modern football, but money's just not a thing, really. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just because
because
you cost more money than Ethan, or Ethan costs more money than you, doesn't mean that, because he costs more money, he's probably a better player. I mean, what you do on the pitch is what you do on the pitch, and he is one of United's more creative players.
You do have to take into a factor, though, the trouble he actually does cause.
Yeah, but imagine they got him on a free transfer. Would people have the same gripe about him?
No.
Possibly, but at the end of the day, everyone knows the ability he has, but it's just how often does he show it?
France, Paul Pogba is an entirely different player than Manchester United.
Paul Pogba is the final piece of the puzzle. United have been trying to build a team around Pogba for years, and that's not right.
Well, maybe United need a Kante for Pogba.
Well, I think McTominay has been really, really good this year.
We haven't really seen too much of that partnership yet, though.
Yeah, that's true.
But this is it. But I mean, Pogba has not been played a lot deeper for United than he has played for Juventus and even for France. I think anyone that watches him regularly knows that he should be an attacking midfield player.
Of course.
Playing through the middle or even playing out left. He seems to do better out wide sometimes as well. But he's been kind of stuck in this number 6 role for the last couple of years at United.
You think he
Because
might
no one
be,
else has been there to play it.
You think he might be stalling his recovery and his comeback to the starting team?
Apparently he was sick this week and
Did you
couldn't
not
come
see him
back.
at his brother's wedding?
Yeah,
Did you see him?
I did. Yeah,
Yeah.
throwing a few shapes. I'm not surprised he's sick after that.
I'm sure you've done that when you're sick a couple of times, have you?
I wouldn't know about it.
Oh, sorry, Gaffer, I can't make it today. Yeah, I know a little bit about that, lads. Right, we'll rewind a little bit. Leicester took on Norwich on Saturday in a game that finished 1-1, and Leicester lost ground in the title race. I don't think we would have been saying that at the start of the season.
No.
Now, I did, after, game week 6 was the first week that we did the pod, and I did predict Leicester would be top 4 at that stage.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone saw them challenging for the title. And I don't think they are challenging for the title.
No.
I don't think Brendan Rodgers is going to talk about challenging for the title. They're 10 points off. Like we were said off air, City are probably more likely to actually finish closer to Liverpool still.
As good as Liverpool have been, though, at this stage of the season, Leicester 10 points behind them. Do you think it's more unrealistic for Leicester to win the league now than they did at the start of the season when they did win it?
I was asking the questions now.
Yeah. I only think it's more unrealistic now because of how good Liverpool have been. I feel the year that they won it, magic, obviously, don't get me wrong, but the league standard that year was appalling.
It was. And like, do you know what I mean? There was Arsenal's to win and then they bottled it, and there was Spurs to win and then they bottled it. And
They went and then, yeah, literally, yeah. And
City
just didn't want to
capitulated,
know.
Liverpool weren't interested
City
that
didn't want
year,
to know.
United fell apart. Yeah,
Look, like at the end of the day,
that gives me that.
Leicester are 10 points behind City, but also 10 points ahead of Chelsea. So you look at that, like they're second in the league.
But this is a kind of a testament to how well Leicester have been run over the last few years. That they really have gone out and planned what they want to do with their football club. I mean, for the last few years, their recruitment has been spot on. They've identified the young English players they want to bring into the first team. They've identified the manager they wanted to go and get, and it's all come together really, really nicely for them.
I think it just goes to show how good of a job Brendan Rodgers has done. I mean,
But was it not all set up for him?
well, I mean, you could say Claude
He was the man for the job, definitely. But
Claude Puel, more or less the exact same team. He couldn't do it. He got sacked.
I mean, Claude Puel was leaving Jamie Vardy on the bench, and he was trying to play possession football. I mean, every armchair pundit in the world was screaming out watching Leicester.
Counter-attack,
What are you
just
doing,
get on
man?
the counter.
What are you doing? Kick the ball over the top
Yeah.
and let this ridiculously.
But it's
quick
man
run
management
onto
as well, Brendan Rodgers.
Of course it is.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
Like, he knows
I
what
think
he's
Brendan's brilliant.
Like, I mean, I think Brendan Rodgers used to get a lot of stick, and you look what he did with Liverpool. You could say he goes to Celtic and anyone can do that job. I don't think Neil Lennon's done the job the same.
Well, look, he actually did a brilliant job at Liverpool, and I remember there was a lot of gripe when he left, thinking that he kind of. The biggest issue that I'd have with him, the only issue that I have with him, is the Raheem Sterling situation. That he took a teenage winger, played him as a central striker, and tore him apart in the media when he wasn't scoring enough goals. Sterling didn't sign a new contract at the club, and he said it wasn't just for financial reasons; it was because of a breakdown in his relationship with the manager at the club.
Yeah.
So, you would imagine that Raheem Sterling would have stayed at Liverpool,
Yeah.
maybe if Klopp had come in a season earlier, or that hadn't happened. But if you look at what he was working with in his final season at Liverpool, when he had a front line of Barini, Balotelli, and Ricky Lambert, I mean, because the club's transfer committee hadn't gotten it right at that stage.
Yeah.
They were still learning, they were still bringing in young players, the project was still ongoing, and their chance to win the league was really that 13-14 season. And then when that didn't happen, Gerrard was another year older, Suarez, was looking at the door, Sturridge couldn't keep himself fit.
But you look at it, like, people have give Brendan, as they say, a bad time, as all said, like going to Celtic or whatnot. You know for a fine fact, if he won the league that year, he'd be hailed as one, like...
Of course, no, the treble in Scotland was it's unheard
Oh,
of.
yeah, of course, but like at the end of the
Oh,
day...
even in Liverpool you're talking about?
Yeah,
of course he would have.
No, but if he won that, like, regardless of...
But even go back to his Swansea job.
Oh, yeah, like, he's a great manager. And it's not even, like, it used to be talked about that he's a great manager and stuff like that. But the tactics he's put into Leicester, it's on the ball this year.
Do you know what? I don't think Liverpool losing that league was down to him. I think he brought them as far as he could. They got unfortunate with the Gerrard slip and the Palace game, and that's just how they lost their title.
I think that he's even come out himself and said that he he lost the run of himself a little bit as well, and they all just got a little bit carried away. And it wasn't that he was shouting from the roof, "We're gonna win the league," but I mean,
They thought they had it won.
he got a bit ahead of himself. A few of the players got a bit ahead of themselves. The fans definitely got ahead of themselves, and the whole thing just came to a head. I think it was a real learning experience for everybody.
Yeah,
Definitely.
In terms of counting your chickens before they've hatched. And I don't think it's one that, obviously he went to Scotland and won a couple of leagues, and it wasn't something that he ever let get to him again.
I think he's experienced it now and knows. He knows what Leicester. He knows like he's not. He's in a position. Yeah, he's in a position at the moment that they're 100% overachieving.
Yeah,
but he's just going to keep going, doing his job, and fingers crossed for himself and Leicester fans.
Yeah,
they get Champions League football.
Right. It was a huge point for Norwich. Anyway, I don't think anybody saw them getting anything from the KP.
No, definitely not. No.
Is there any chance that they stay up? They find themselves only 3 points from safety.
I think for Norwich it's all about one man. It's about Tim Pukki,
who broke his toe last day out and actually played on for the rest of it. Yeah, I know.
But I mean, we saw how good he was at the start of the season. If he can find that form again, kind of like a Me Too type form.
Me Too.
Yeah,
honestly,
that could get them out of jail.
Definitely. They're one of these teams that like. Are they Premier League standard team wise? No. But at the end of the day, if they can get these little points off these teams, get wins against the teams that are around them,
I suppose you just have to put yourself in a position to give yourself a chance with 5 or 6 games left. It's not about It's not about getting it done and staying up now. It's just about keeping within.
If you're 3 points off safety with 6 or 7 games to go,
hopefully you're
well in.
Could be against someone and around you.
You're well in the chance.
Yeah, right. Sheffield United won again, 2-0 against Aston Villa.
Yeah.
Did anybody on the planet anticipate Sheffield United doing so well this year?
Great.
I mean, but I think every neutral that watches the Premier League enjoys Sheffield United. They play brilliant football. They've got really likeable players, likeable manager, and they're a bit of a breath of fresh air for teams coming up from the Championship.
Yeah, I think it's good to see. There's a lot of Irish players at the heart of it as well, with John Egan and the Stevens, Dave McGoldrick and Callum Robinson, and I think they've got a system and they stick to it. You know, they've got 4 strikers and they kind of alternate them. And
with the 2, yeah.
And how good has Lys Mousset been for them as well after being a forgotten
phenomenal form
at Bournemouth.
Couldn't even get a kick half the
time.
No,
not at all. So they'll be absolutely fine come the end of the season.
Aston Villa lost again, for all of their plaudits and everyone that says that they're playing great football. You know, Jack Grealish should be captain of England and
this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
Good on Jack.
Are they that good? I know they beat the Liverpool youngsters 5-0. We won't really talk about that in relation to the rest of the league. I mean, they fought 15 games from 16, 17 games, 15 points from 15 or 16, 17 games. Like, a point a game should keep you up just about. Is that where Villa are at?
I think they definitely snap your hand off just to stay, just to kind of like solidify where they are. Let's say, as I say, they're in semi-final of a cup competition now.
Well, that's huge.
So they'll be happy enough with that, let alone.
And that will be done by January.
Exactly, exactly. And
get yourself out of the FA Cup as quickly as you can.
That will be it though. Like 100%, because at the end of the day, they're not going to think that they're going to win the FA Cup. They're in a position now with the League Cup that it's a semi-final. Anyone could win it. Yeah, 100%. Anyone can win it. So I just feel like they're putting themselves out there playing this type of football, and they do play good football, don't get me wrong, but come business end of the season, I think they're going to have to throw away the good football for points. I don't know.
Just but whatever means necessary to get the results.
Having watched Aston Villa a bit this season, the game plan does seem to be to just give the ball to Jack Grealish and let him dribble past a few people and, you know, put in a couple of balls, wait till you get a set piece, let Horahan whip one in. Yeah. You know, they don't seem to have a plan for scoring goals from open play.
I think Wesley hasn't done too bad for them though.
I know he had a barren run of forms. I think he went 4 games scoring before yesterday.
And for Villa fans to have the expectations for him to immediately come in and get goals with how well Tammy Abraham did for them last season.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think the one mistake that Dean Smith makes is not starting Conor Horahan as much as he does, because he does bring that set piece threat. And
you hear the plaudits that John McGinn and Jack Grealish get, but the numbers this season, the player with the highest involvement in goals and assists this year is still Conor Hourihane.
And his win percentage as well. You're seeing with or without.
Yeah,
They've won 1 game, drawn 1, lost 8, and then with them it's something like 4, 1 and 3.
Interestingly, it's something that the English media don't pick up on too much, isn't it? Yeah.
You don't even know how to say a second name, let alone that.
But I think the players that
who ran.
The players that Smith replaces Hourihane with are Marvelous Nakamba and Douglas Luiz, and they're both defensive minded players. I mean, Hourihane just brings that extra goal threat, and
set pieces are very set.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right, we'll move on. Jose Mourinho won again, the little bollocks. Claude won back from the jaws of defeat and then a draw. They're going to get Champions League, aren't they?
I can't stand them.
I know you can't, but they're going to take that 4th Champions League spot.
They should.
Don't bank on it.
I wouldn't bank on it, but they should.
But hang on, this is the same Spurs team that made the Champions League final last year. It's the same Spurs team that were nailed on top 4 at the start of the season before Poch, essentially capitulated and had a bit of a midlife crisis. But I mean, and this good guy Jose is back in our lives now, and everyone loves him again. Well, they're going to do it.
I'm not banking against him. I'm saying don't bank on it.
He's got Dele Alli playing football again.
Yeah.
Lucas Moura's on flames. Harry Kane's on flames. Heung-min Son looks like the best player in the Premier League at the minute. Do you know what I mean?
It'd be interesting to see what they can do.
And they're going to get better defensively as well. The games are coming thick and fast at the minute. He's not had a lot of time to get them out on the pitch. This is just the man management that is getting them these results at the minute.
I feel like they have a lot of contract issues that they need to sort out and sharpish. The likes of Christian Eriksen being out of contract in the summer, are they going to let him go or are they going to keep him on the bench for half a season? I feel like we're at a stage now that it used to be if someone wasn't signing a contract, you could punish them by not playing them. But a person that quality of Christian Eriksen that they need on the pitch, because they do at the end of the day, he's a fabulous player. To let him go for free and be like, all right, we're going to put you on the bench for half a season.
But I mean, if you turn around and say to Christian Eriksen, right, mate, you're not playing another minute of football before the World Cup or before the Euros even, is he going to be happy with that?
I'd say still walk into them, Martin.
Of course he'd walk into it, but I mean, is he going to be happy with that preparation?
See Daniel Levy's quote today?
What was that?
He said he wouldn't be afraid to sell him to a rival. Well, not him exactly.
Well, he's obviously talking about Manchester United.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
So, yeah.
Which would suggest that Pogba's on the way out of United.
What other team would he get into that are actual rivals of Spurs? Let's be honest.
Well, I mean, he wouldn't move across to Arsenal. He would get into Arsenal.
Arsenal rivals. Spurs are head over heels.
Yeah.
Obviously, he would get into Arsenal.
Look, David Silva is on the way out of Manchester City. Phil Foden's tipped to take his place.
It wouldn't be a bad sign if they got him on a free.
Look, do you know what? Liverpool are debating whether to keep playing Naby Keita or Oxlade-Chamberlain.
I would think that,
and only because of the fact that they're more dynamic than, and they have a higher work rate than Eriksen would probably mean he'd keep him out of the Liverpool team. But I mean, I think he'd walk into.
Would he fit a 4-3-3
team? No.
I think
he'd walk into every team.
He'd be similar to Coutinho for Liverpool.
Yeah.
But I mean, Klopp was delighted to get rid of Coutinho.
That's what I mean.
Because he said he's not quick enough to be a winger. That's what I mean. Doesn't work hard enough to be a midfielder.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't want to do the dirty work. So that's why Liverpool have 3 athletes in midfield when they play.
3 athletes. Yeah. They've got athletes all over the pitch. In case you haven't noticed, all they pick is athletes.
If you look at Liverpool's midfield, they haven't got any world class midfielders. You'd have to say. They've got athletes. They've got
work. In terms of technical ability,
but it works. It works, and that's the main thing.
At the end of the day, yeah.
Right, Ethan, do you want to let us know about what happened in the Emirates?
The same thing that's been happening for the past 3, 4, 5 years. Let's be honest.
But they're normally quite decent at home, Arsenal.
Yeah,
they normally are
against City. Arsenal love to play into top teams' hands. These top teams come to the Emirates, know that we like to play football, or at least we try to play football.
Yeah.
We let the wing backs go. We're certain said Kolasinac left back and Ozzie Maitland-Niles right back against Raheem Sterling like, you look at it on an outside point of view and you go, okay, I do this, but like, obviously we can't say what's gone on. We played into their hands, completely played in their hands. And if someone asked me, what would you do differently starting 11? I would have said the exact same starting 11. Like, what can you do?
You know, it felt like when the first goal went in, the fans just kind of expected it. They were like, "Oh, well,
It is the most
here we go again."
toxic fan base in the Premier League.
Well, this is what I wanted to get on to, because I mean, Mikel Arteta hasn't even been appointed as the Arsenal manager yet, and I mean, Arteta out is already trending.
Aubameyang's brother, our club.
I saw Willie Aubameyang, yeah.
Our captain's brother put on Instagram saying, "Why would you hire him? Lundberg and him."
No, it was live on Twitter underneath one of the AFTV. AFTV were going live.
They're even worse.
Twitter. Well, I mean, it was Willie Aubameyang and AFTV together. This Emery Out message brought to you by AFTV in association with Willie Aubameyang. Like,
what can I say? That, like, I look at it and I go, Mikel Arteta, obviously he wouldn't be my first choice in terms of steadying the ship.
yeah,
But I think the Arsenal board have this plan now that we're going to try to build something.
Yeah.
We'll take a few sixths, we'll take a few fifths, because this season I think's done. I think we could put a nail in it straight away, being honest with you.
well, I don't think that anyone's going to argue with you, Ethan. You're 10th. You've got 24 points or 22 points. So you're level with Newcastle.
No,
I mean, I don't think you need to come out and say that this season is done.
No, but like at the end of the day, you look, we're in the Europa League, so if we could maybe...
Can you see yourself doing anything?
No, honestly, no.
What about even the draw against Olympiacos? Do you think you get through? I think it.
We should. Don't get me wrong, we should, but it really depends on what kind of Arsenal
But the
show
scary thing was the last game against Frankfurt at home in the Europa League.
Desperate.
Falling to
Desperate.
pieces.
But it's literally, like, you know yourself how much, especially being a Liverpool fan, how much a crowd can lift you.
Yeah. And I mean, having watched Liverpool for the last decade, or much longer than the last decade, they finished outside of the top 4 on 6 occasions in the last decade.
I think it's a terrible spell.
But I mean, to get to the point where Liverpool are now, and even before City did it, they spent a lot of time first fighting to establish themselves as a top 4, then trying to establish themselves as a league-winning team. Like, that project has to start again for Arsenal, because they're at the stage now, bar Aubameyang and Lacazette, that they're a mid-table team.
Worse.
But yeah,
No,
so I mean,
honestly,
that project
worse.
has to start all over again, because they haven't sold on the dead wood. They've let Sanchez go for free.
Yeah, bring in Mkhitaryan.
Bring in Mkhitaryan, let him go. You know, you look at Aaron Ramsey going for free. Absolutely shocking.
Really replaced.
They're putting the money into Mesut Ozil, who's either going to go for free or get bought out of his contract.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all got to be written off. And I saw something good on Twitter the other day. I think that was about the team that Arsenal, the players at the club that Arsenal need to build the team around at the minute. And it's literally Leno in goals, who looks very, very good.
Yeah.
Kieran Tierney at left back, Martinelli up top, and possibly one of the midfielders who's
Willock.
Yeah, Joe Willock was the other one. And essentially those 4 players are the only ones that I think Arsenal fans in 3 years would want to still see at their club. Because I mean, Aubameyang's not going to be there in reality.
No, he's 30. Like, he's 30 now, and
he's got his last move in the summer.
He has one big contract left in him, and I doubt it'll be at Arsenal.
I don't think that keeping Lacazette would be the worst idea, because Lacazette was signed to be the central striker at Arsenal, and then Aubameyang just became available. 6 months later or something.
He was a panic boy.
But you know what? I was talking about this the other day with Joe, who's obviously not here today. But Arsenal got into this habit of just buying players because Liverpool wanted them at one stage, just to spite Liverpool after the Suarez deal. I mean, Liverpool were in for Lacazette, and suddenly then Arsenal, we'll have Lacazette. No, we'll pay more. That's fine. Aubameyang, no, we'll pay more for Aubameyang. That's fine. And then there was Thomas Lemar as well from Monaco. Liverpool had a deal done. Arsenal, no, we'll pay more for him. No, just broke up the whole negotiations and then pulled out, I think, at the last minute or the last day of the transfer market. And United got caught into doing something similar with City over Alexis Sanchez, where they wanted to save face and needed to be signing big players. Yeah. And they went out and they bought these 2 central strikers to play as part of a front 3 in Aubameyang and Lacazette, with clearly no vision as to how they were going to be played together. Yeah. How that was going to work. You know what I mean? Especially considering the fact that it was Mesut Ozil. It was just marquee signing, get him in. yeah, oh, we need to boost the brand, you know. Everyone's saying we
Sell
need
a
to
few
score
shirts.
more goals, and this is it. That they've gathered this group of players that just don't make any sense in terms of how
There's
they
no
play together.
vision. There's no vision.
Like, I mean, do you want players to play from? They have coaches telling you to play from the back while you've got defenders not able to do it. You've got players trying to run it behind, but no one able to pick that pass. You've got Mesut Ozil, you know, trying to get in these pockets and play 1-2s, and people don't have the intelligence to play around with him, you know.
Yeah. No,
And he gets caught by himself, and there needs to be a whole lot done to change what's going on.
Oh, it's huge. Oh, it's huge.
Yeah. City, on the other hand, bounced back. You know, they kind of been written off last week. You know, that's it. They're done. They're out of the league. They're going to put all their eggs in the Champions League basket.
Yeah.
Is that the case, Oz? Are they going to put all their eggs in the Champions League basket? Are they going to write off the Premier League?
Well, Pep says it, the league is done, but he won't be telling his players that in the dressing room. He'll say, but if we can win more or less every game we've got left coming the end of the season, we'll have a chance, no matter how well or bad Liverpool do. But I mean, it is something that City have wanted to do these last few years and pick up the Champions League. I mean, they've won multiple leagues, and maybe now it's time for a Champions League.
Right, you talk about City in the Champions League. They've drawn Real Madrid.
Yeah.
And the second leg will be in the Etihad. Now, I think the biggest criticism that anyone has had over Manchester City over the last couple of years, for footballing reasons, don't mind what's going on off the pitch, is the atmosphere at home in big games hasn't been there. You know what I mean? People are intimidated by going to Anfield. You know what I mean? Even Stamford Bridge on a European night is absolutely buzzing. You know, even the Emirates gets a bit of a buzz for European games, especially Champions League games. You know, knockout games. There is that buzz there. Old Trafford, of course, as well. These are places you don't want to go and play football on big European nights, but I don't think the Etihad has that same fear factor about it.
There's just not enough City fans around. It's just the city has been dominated by a different Manchester club in the last since the Premier League is been formed.
But it hasn't for the last decade almost though.
But you'd imagine all the City fans of the last decade will be of a young age, just because they see this title winning side. I'll support them. But you know, the majority of fans in Manchester support Manchester United, and that's City's main problem. You can't go out in the street and say, will you support City for me?
But hang on though. I mean, if Everton had a huge European game, Goodison Park would be rocking, and they're the minority in the city.
Yeah, I believe so. But Everton are probably a bigger club than Man City are. If we're talking,
there's no probably about it. I mean, they've won much more trophies over the years. Maybe at this stage, I'm not sure.
Football didn't start 15 years ago.
No, it didn't. Like Everton are the second longest standing side in the Premier League. They've only been relegated once, and they've been in the Premier League for nearly 100 years.
Yeah.
Everton are a massive
division,
club, but I mean they're still not the biggest in the city. They've got a small fan base, but I mean,
as much as a home crowd can help,
Goodison Park.
Do you think that City can go on and win the Champions League? I suppose is the question I'm asking.
I think it would be a big statement if they go by Real Madrid. I don't think it's the same Real Madrid as it was when Ronaldo was playing.
But hang on, they're managed by Zinedine Zidane, who's won 3 from 3 Champions Leagues.
True.
Every year as a manager, he's won the Champions League.
Every year, that team is getting older.
3 in a row. Who else have you ever heard winning 3 Champions Leagues in a row?
The difference is about this year for Zidane is no Ronaldo.
But they've found form coming into El Clasico now. They've only lost twice all season. Once was to PSG away in the Champions League, and the other time was in August.
But even
they haven't lost.
The PSG that just came, they're 2-0 up at home to PSG. You want to see that game out, but they go and concede the 2 goals, and they draw the game.
They do, but I mean, they've been beaten twice all year. Once since August, and that was away in Paris in a game that they probably shouldn't have won.
I think you're right. I think Real Madrid and Zidane especially treat the Champions League as
it's their competition. They've won it 13 times.
Yeah. That's what Florentino Perez wants. He wants Real Madrid to get the 10, the 11, the 12, 13s. He wants them to be.
This is their focus. This is where they show up. This is where they're judged.
This is huge.
I mean, if you win the league and don't win the Champions League, you almost get sacked as a manager of Real Madrid.
Oh, yeah.
The league is very much secondary.
Yeah, definitely.
I just think if you were to pick a time in the last few years for City to play Madrid, it would be now.
Oh, definitely.
Yes, of course it is. Look, well, maybe last year.
Depending.
I would have said last year the first season after Ronaldo would have been the one I would have wanted.
Yeah, no, they did struggle, but it really depends. Like I think City last year were better than this year as well.
Yeah.
Oh, fair.
So you look at it in that sense
that's
as
also
well,
true.
you know?
Well, look at the other English teams' European draws. Liverpool drew Atletico Madrid. Do either of you see Liverpool getting knocked out?
No. But it won't be as easy as some people have been talking about.
Yeah.
This Diego Simeone, Atletico Madrid have always been very hard to beat. Recently, though,
Yeah.
it hasn't been as like
They're not kind of as fluid up front.
Well,
are
they've
they?
not been scoring. Like I know Diego Costa is still there, but Alvaro Morata seems to be starting a lot of games, and
compared to Griezmann, there's always going to
there's
be
a massive
downgrade.
difference. There's a massive difference.
But going
They've
away,
also lost Godin.
yeah, well that's huge. Yeah, he was one of them. He was one of them defenders that, regardless of his pace wise, I think not that he would have suited Mark and Firmino, but it would have been a lot better than someone that's running, buzzing in around him. Let's say.
Definitely.
I think even the likes of Godin, like even when he's not playing well, his presence on the pitch it makes other players play better.
They find themselves off the pace in La Liga this year, outside the top four, and Simeone, for the first time in his tenure there, has come out and said this is going to be a rebuilding season. Halfway through the year, he's pulled out that excuse, which doesn't necessarily fill anybody with confidence as to the direction that they're going, but possibly it's to kind of downplay their chances coming into this game in and around the draw, and maybe not have the chat about them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, out of themselves, Real Madrid and Barcelona, they're always going to be viewed as the underdogs, so they have that advantage, even though they're not far behind the other two. But I mean, at the same time, I don't think it would be a shock to see them go through past Liverpool with, just how difficult they are to play against.
It depends. It really depends. I think it could potentially be a blessing in disguise if Liverpool do go out. Potentially.
But you've both already said they have the league stitched up at this stage.
You look at it that way, and it could be that as well. But at the end of the day, it takes 3 draws, 1 loss, and it's.
But I don't.
And the thing that happens with Liverpool as well is, I don't think Liverpool have much squad depth. An injury to Mane or Salah at the same time.
But they are also signing Minamino from Salzburg. He had his medical today, and seems to be a quality player coming in. They've rotated the squad quite well with Divock Origi. Shaqiri's found himself back in the setup recently.
This is what I mean. I mean, like,
they rotate the midfielders around.
A title-winning team, though, like the likes of Shaqiri coming in and trying to save your game.
But they did it against Everton. They made 6 changes and smacked them around at home.
I just
the rotation has been really impressive in recent weeks. I thought
these are relegation candidates.
But they seem to almost do better when they bring their change players in. We spoke about
maybe they feel like they have more to prove.
Yeah, but the first team players don't actually seem to be playing especially well. They're just grinding out results, whereas the change players come in and they actually seem to overperform occasionally.
It's with Liverpool, to bring it back to Liverpool and City, the whole title race. Let's say you look at City's player, like position for position, they have top quality replacements to come in. Not saying Liverpool don't, but like you bring out Aguero, you get Gabriel Jesus. You bring out Sterling, you get Riyad Mahrez. You bring out
Sané is also there.
The thing about the Liverpool front three though is that they can all play as central strikers
anywhere. Yeah.
All of them.
Firmino gets injured.
Salah plays as a striker almost more regularly than Firmino does, and people don't talk about it.
Yeah, definitely.
They just think, oh, he's a right winger.
You can get away.
Mane plays internationally all the time as a striker and plays maybe 1 in 4 games for Liverpool as a striker. They can bring in wingers that can play on either side. They're signing Minamino, who can play everywhere from a number 6 in midfield right the way up to number 9 as a striker, everywhere in the top half of the pitch. I think that if you look at how maybe Manchester United are probably the best example of a team that really created a dynasty in English football recently and that challenged on all fronts regularly, they were always challenging in both competitions. They never said, oh, no, the Premier League is more important. The Champions League is more important. What Jurgen Klopp has done so well at Liverpool is it's just the next game. One game at a time, we prepare for this game. We want to win this game. When we win this game, we'll see how it goes. And I mean, they've only lost 1 game in the Premier League in a year. They've never lost a European tie over 2 legs. He, as a manager, has never lost a European tie over 2 legs, a knockout game, which is outrageous.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So I mean that's what it's all about. It's all about just 1 game at a time, and they don't care. He said today before the World Club Cup championships that it doesn't matter what competition it is. It's all the same. It's just the next game.
Next win,
We
yeah.
prepare, and we play, and that's what's made them a machine.
Of course, yeah.
They're not getting carried away. So I think I'd be very surprised if they had any inclination of going out. Gary Neville said last year the best thing they could do was get knocked out of the Champions League early on, so they can challenge for the league. And I mean, could they? I don't know if they could have done much better in the league last year. They
really
overperformed in the league.
They really couldn't.
There was no catching Man City last year, and they went on to win the Champions League, and it might have started something for them. So I don't know. Maybe they won't win the league this year, but maybe they will win the Champions League. And I don't think anyone would turn their nose up at it.
No,
I've seen weirder things.
Yeah.
Do you think Chelsea are going to go through us? Bayern Munich.
I don't think Bayern are having the best season. They could have had.
No, they have struggled in
I
the
think
Bundesliga. They've been off the pace a little bit. They've strung together a couple of wins recently.
Fifth, I think, aren't they?
Yeah, they're up to fifth after last
At the
weekend.
same time, you can't deny they've got quality and they've got players who have played in the Champions League for years now. Their main threat would be Lewandowski, and he's probably having the season of his life.
Yeah,
So
definitely, yeah.
I think, you know, if he's coming up against Chelsea and he's seeing the likes of maybe Christensen or young Tomori starting against him, he's going to be licking his lips.
Yeah,
I'm going to get
definitely,
into these guys. And I'm going to have a good.
If you look at what they did to Spurs when Spurs didn't show up.
Yeah.
I mean, they scored 10 goals over the 2 games, did they?
Yeah, exactly. No, they do carry a threat. It seems like they're getting up more for the Champions League games this year than they are the league games.
I think their fans do as well.
But that's the same.
Yeah.
We spoke about Real Madrid and, you know, the history that these clubs have. It can be difficult sometimes to get up for a league
PSG
game.
as the likes as well.
Yeah.
They've only dumped funds to win the Champions League.
Juventus as well.
They take
even
it
as well.
back.
The Champions League is
Well,
everything for
Juventus
these
this
clubs.
year isn't as easy as
No, it's
recent, but the other two, yeah.
Conte and Sarri have been quite interesting to watch. Yeah,
definitely.
To go back to it though, with Chelsea, I feel it's better. Like a lot of teams would prefer playing away first. You know,
Coming back home,
getting a draw, getting out of the place,
Getting a goal.
getting a goal, and going back home. But I feel for ourselves, if we were to play Bayern away first, the tie could be gone after the first leg. You know, they could.
Well, Chelsea are at home in the first leg.
Yeah, so. I mean, if we can
limit them to 0.
Yeah.
And I think,
look. And does anybody see Spurs getting knocked out by Leipzig?
Well, they are top of the Bundesliga.
They are. And they're flying.
You know, Timo Werner's having a great season.
But I mean, it's Jose Mourinho.
Yeah, that's the bit. That is the factor that it really is. Like, I think if Spurs went out, I wouldn't be shocked, but I don't expect them to.
Right. Oz?
I agree, but I think it's one of the best draws they could have got, but I don't think Leipzig are to be underestimated.
No, I don't think so. I think that it's very interesting that Atlanta drew Valencia. And I mean, one of those teams is going to be in the quarter-final draw.
Yeah.
The thing is, if Ross Barkley had scored his penalty against Valencia, that would be Chelsea. That would be
the final
right.
Chelsea.
Lads, we'll have a look at what's going on this weekend in the Premier League. Ethan, we'll start with you because Arsenal go away to Everton the first Saturday kickoff.
Yeah.
How do you see that one going?
It depends. I've heard Ancelotti's not going to be the manager.
Well, he's not
Heard
signed the
in the
contract
stands.
yet.
Yeah, so
Well,
he's in the stands.
he's not the manager, but he's still negotiating how the contract situation is
I
going. The transfer
would
situation even.
unfortunately see an Everton win.
Big dunk.
I
Doing it
think
again.
so. A 2-1.
How did Everton get on in the end? They lost on penalties. Right, so they drew with Leicester in a game that Leicester were desperate to win today.
I just feel like it'd be one of them games. We lost there last season. It's not a game for Arsenal to win. I'd say Everton.
Score?
2-1.
2-1 to the home team. Oz?
I go for a 2-2.
2-2. Mate, Arsenal on the road. No chance, fam. Big
We'll
dunk.
score goals.
Nah, I don't even think so, man. Big dunk, 2-0 all day. I don't think Arsenal might be lucky if it's 2.
Could be right.
Bournemouth host Burnley. Oz, you can go first with this one.
I'll go 1-1.
Okay, Ethan.
I go a 2-0 Bournemouth.
2-0 to the home
Going
team.
against-
Bournemouth back on top,
Yeah,
are they?
going against my judgment of what I said earlier, but yeah, 2-0.
Nah, mate, I think this is Sean Dyche will have had this one.
Planned.
Yeah, I've had this one for a while. I can see a 1-0 Burnley here.
1-0, yeah.
Right, Villa host Southampton in what is a real relegation
Yeah, that's
6-pointer.
big, yeah.
I mean, these guys are level on points, 17th and
It's
18th.
huge.
Etho,
2-0 Villa.
2-0 Villa.
2-0 Villa.
Oz,
3-1 Villa.
We're all about to win 150k in the accumulator.
lads, relegation 6-pointer in the first half of the season.
0-0.
0-0 all day. All day. Don't even think about goals now, and don't even think about shots on target. Brighton host Sheffield United.
1-0. But wouldn't be surprised to see a 4-1 Sheffield if it happened.
So you know for 1-1 or 4-1.
1-1.
All right, brilliant. Oz,
1-1.
I think Sheffield United are gonna nick that 2-0. 2-1 actually.
2-1.
Aaron Connolly, fingers crossed, lads.
You'll have a Neil Mowbray.
He's actually looked good, doesn't he? Yeah. Newcastle host Palace, lads. Do we expect any shots in that one?
3. And I think Newcastle are going to score 2. 2-1.
Sam Maximin was out for the next month.
2-1 Newcastle. The only time that they'll ever score 2 in the season.
Oz,
1-0 Palace.
I'd be inclined to agree. I'm going to say 2-1 Palace just to keep it interesting. Norwich take on Wolves. Norwich had been quite good at home for the start of the season. Wolves have found a lot of form though as the season's gone on. They lost last week to Spurs at home. I think they're going to be gunning for that, and I don't give Norwich a chance. I think that's going to be 2-0 to Wolves.
I'm going to go completely against it. 2-0 Norwich.
Interesting.
2-2.
Just go in the middle.
Love that. West Ham Liverpool was obviously off this week.
Yeah.
Did we talk about West Ham earlier and Southampton?
Talk about West Ham relegation, and they shouldn't be there, but
Yeah. So yeah, they're probably quite lucky to have a game off this week and see how everyone else does.
probably are. Yeah.
That game in hand will come in handy later on in the season. City host Leicester in a mouth-watering draw at the Etihad.
3-1 City.
Oz,
3-1 City.
do I have to say 3-1 City as well? No, I don't. I'm going to say 2-1 Leicester.
Wow.
Yeah.
Statement.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of Pep. I think he's finished.
Jamie Vardy goal 1000%. though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Watford host Manchester United.
2-0 United.
I'm going to go 3-1 United.
1-1. Can see Watford getting something. I think Watford are going to pick up a few points.
Penalty or something. Troy Deeney.
Something. VAR decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Super Sunday, Spurs host Chelsea. Oz, you can start us off with that. How do you see that one going? Because that is absolutely huge.
Go 4-1 Spurs.
Woo!
I know Lampard did beat Mourinho at Old Trafford, but I don't see it again.
1-1.
That's 2-0 Spurs.
2-0.
2-1. 2-1. I love it 2-1. Love it 2-1. Right, lads, that's pretty much us for the agenda this evening. Just a big thanks really for coming on and helping us out. I know we'd been stuck this week with a couple of cancellations early on in the week. Obviously Joe's away.
I was having sleep.
We planned to do the show yesterday. I slept through it. But we're all here this evening. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, enjoyed it. Thanks.
Have you?
Yeah.
You don't?
Good fun.
Yeah.
Well, look, we'll get you back again, hopefully.
Yeah.
Oz, thanks for coming out.
Thanks, Rafe.
No worries.
Cheers, mate. Thank
No
you.
dramas. Before we go, I try to remind you every single week, please subscribe to us on YouTube because that's really just where we want to go. You lads know our mate Joe O'Boyle. He's a regular fan of the show.
Oh, did you want to shout out, did he?
Yeah, well, no, we gave him one last week. We'll give him one this week.
Yeah.
Keep listening. We might get you on the show.
Yeah.
Guys, any emails, questions, queries, just find us somehow. Thanks.